obviously I started using LinkedIn there because I started connecting with people, and that was kind of my professional, network at that time before I started using, Facebook so much. But, so when I would meet somebody, whether it was, in person or online, whatever, recommendation or connection, I would connect with them on LinkedIn automatically because it almost became, like my database. I didn't have this other, program, which now I need. To take note. And LinkedIn, quite honestly, it does have a section, now that I think about it, where you can make notes about your connections on there. I mean, so you could potentially go to somebody's, LinkedIn profile that you're connected to and make some notes about, what you've talked about and things like that. I don't necessarily recommend it as a CRM, but I was using it for a long time to just kind of keep track of people, where they were working, their email address. Once I'm connected to you, I can see your email address, so I don't have to dig out your business card or, find it somewhere else. But, my pipeline was more looking like connecting with someone on LinkedIn, maybe following up with you, with an email or a phone call, depending. And then we get into the whole realm of, having conversations with clients on the social media, platforms as well. And I think, where all of these CRMs are kind of falling short is really it having a seamless integration of the social data.
Right.
And my warning to you is when you're doing your CRM research, they're all going to say that they're social, right? They're all going to say that they have that capability. Basically, mobile and social are both the the future of everything, really, but CRM too. And so they're all going to say they have these capabilities, but really the truth is they're all still working on it.
Yeah.
They really don't have this all kind of together. So
well, and part of it is nobody's really completely figured out social media because it's such a moving target anyway. And so,
and I think actually part of the reason that they haven't, it's not really a seamless integration is really because of their because of issues with privacy. So obviously, as a person maybe who's on the other end of this equation, if I'm a customer of some company, I don't necessarily want that entire organization having access to my Facebook account just because I've friended one person within that organization.
Right.
And I think that's actually the reason that they haven't quite figured out how to seamlessly integrate this information. Whereas, for people like us, we are our business, so if you're connected to me, you are connected to my business, but right now it is just me, so it's not like your information is being shared with all kinds of, other people and, any craziness like that. But, for us, it would be nice to, have a solution. There is a platform out there called Nimble, and, they've gotten close to integrating they do actually integrate all of your social platforms. However, I've not had really great success with the platform itself, using it as a CRM. I mean, it's definitely something you could look into, but, as tempted as I am, just because social is what I do, I'd love for it to work perfectly, but even their platform doesn't work
Isn't
that
there
great.
yet.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting because as you're talking about, we're sort of the representation of our business. And I, on the other hand, have customers both, like, say, on Facebook, which tends to be a more personal experience, obviously, than LinkedIn. But I also have customers who I don't connect with on Facebook because they don't want their private life and their business life crossing over. And I totally get that. And so, yeah, having that those privacy concerns and that part of it is a whole issue that we didn't used to have to worry about. If someone gave you their business card, you had their business card. Yeah. You could contact them. And
you and I were talking about before we started the podcast, even before social, there was the issue of some people will like and appreciate receiving an email from you, and some people will hate that or they just won't read it. Whereas some people will like and appreciate receiving a phone call from you, and some people will hate that. And it's always, it's always the challenge. I'm sure a lot of you can appreciate this, especially if you're, an independent planner. You're running your own business. You're acting as a salesperson trying to get business, but you're probably receiving a lot of phone calls from, hotel salespeople, and all types of other vendors. And so you can appreciate, knowing whether you like phone calls versus emails and that kind of thing.
Well, and that kind of brings me to something else we talked about that bears mentioning is none of these things are a panacea. None of them are just going to do the job for you.
Right.
You still have to put the thought in. You still have to build the relationship. You still have to have a clear message and an idea of what you're trying to present and things like that, that no CRM, a CRM is kind of like maybe having an assistant who keeps you organized,
Right.
but it's not going to be the relationship for you.
Yeah.
And something that came out of a class I took recently about marketing spoke specifically to that it just has stuck with me, that generic marketing no longer works. You know, you can't just blast emails out to everybody on your list and
Right.
expect that to be useful to anybody.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And in fact, not that I want to admit this, but, you know, I was really consistent with my email newsletters, you know, when I first started my business, and I carried that through, I don't know, I would say the first year and a half, you know, after I started my business. And I would get a lot of people that would acknowledge that they had read them and they were appreciating it because I was, you know, putting in useful information for them. However, the irony is, I had stopped doing that, and not fully intentionally, but just because of, you know, some changes in the software I was using. I had stopped doing it, and that's really when I started getting a lot of more clients. So obviously I think it's, you know, somewhat of a coincidence, but, you know, I think, yes, email marketing does work, but, you know, it's got to be kind of still part of that, you know, personal touch point, I think. You know, people still need to hear from you directly, you know, whether it's a phone call or email, whatever they like to receive. I think, you know, I wouldn't say don't do email marketing, certainly, but I think it's
but don't think it's the only solution.
Exactly. Yeah. You can't just do that and expect that to work.
So, well, I think that kind of sets us up well for maybe talking on some future podcasts about some of these specific CRM programs, maybe looking a little deeper into a few of them. And we would, of course, always love to hear your feedback. So, you know, send us an email. Let us know if there are things within CRM that you'd like us to talk about. And for this episode of the podcast, I guess we'll say have a good day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, John.
Thank you for being with us, Elizabeth.
We appreciate and thank you for listening to the Meetings Podcast. Please email with any questions or comments to meetingspodcast@gmail.com. Meetings Podcast is sponsored by IMEX America, America's worldwide exhibition for incentive travel, meetings, and events. The Meetings Podcast theme music is brought to you by the Delgado Brothers, which can be found at delgadobrothers.com.